So, hi everybody. I wanted to show what I'm working on right now. I'm working on a project for Unreal Engine. Right now it's on 5, but it started on Unreal 4. Uh, Basically because I want to get familiarized with the new tools, but right now it's really not using anything fancy. Just it's a simple game. But yeah, I'm going to start the game and I'm going to show you the systems that I'm implementing. So the game I'm working on right now, it's a framework for 3D adventures. The idea was to something like the games of old, the Spectrum games like Alienate or Batman, uh, the ultimate rare games, and yeah, the games, of course, they had this isometric camera, and I wanted to do something like that, but with more modern features, more quality of life elements. And also, the idea of this framework is that the tools I'm building up need to be reused easily in future projects. Even if I'm not doing isometric adventures, these systems and libraries I'm building up need to be uh, easy enough to understand. So the code has to be clean, everything has to be commented, because maybe I want to do a third person game or maybe I want to do a fighting game, whatever. So these systems need to support that. But right now, well, these games when I had a Spectrum were my favorites. Sorry, for my English, and yeah, I'm starting with this. As you can see, the 3D character is can move, he can sprint, so it's not as fixed as the old rare games. It doesn't really make sense, at least on especially if you use gamepads. And yeah, you can jump, you can climb, or you can drop. You climb, you climb. The idea of this is that you can, well, navigate the levels and solve a few puzzles and maybe help some people along the way. So, for example, for the puzzle systems, I have these pushing blocks. This one can only be pushed into faces. This one is able to be pushed in four directions. I can change everything and set it up very easily. That's the idea of the framework. I have items I can collect. For example, the interface feedback is also very well commented and set up, so I can use it. Everything can be translated on the fly if I change the language. And what else do I have? Oh yeah, about the camera system, for example, right now it seems to be fixed, but I can change it on 4 steps, still on the stylistic way of the old games. But if I need something a bit more modern, I can use user control rotation. Whatever I need, I have it set it up in the camera controller. But right now, I want this. I can change the zoom of the camera. It was a simple setup, so it didn't make sense to not add it. And I have some areas that I can set it up in the level to change the camera. So maybe I'm navigating some very tight corners, and like in Resident Evil, maybe you need to change the camera to something more appropriate. So I have this, I can enter, I change the camera, and when I get out, it returns to the previous camera. So yeah, a few helpers for setting up very common game situations. I have damage areas so for example here I'm burning my feet. The damage here is a bit nasty. This was on a previous first person project and makes sense on that project, but probably I will change it, or at least I will make it so modular that I can modify it easily depending on the project, and I can heal myself up. So I'm going to pick up some healing herbs and consume a few of them. Yeah, and I'm fully healed. Now, as you can see, I have the tooltip here, and it changes depending on the control I use. If I have the gamepad connected, it will change to the Xbox buttons. So yeah, it's versatile. Now I have containers. These containers can be open or locked. For example, this one is locked, and if I try to open it, the guy will say, no, you need a key. So for the open chest, I can pick up things, close it. For the closed chest, I need a key. And when I have a key in the inventory, it will show this tooltip. And this tooltip, if I release the button, it resets the progress. And when I complete it, I can take the stuff inside. I don't have any more space here, I think. Oh yeah. Alright, so apart from the container and inventory systems, which is a shared component, is an inventory component that you can set it up so it is a container, a box, or whatever you need. I have a quest system. This quest system is a quest component that is added to the player, and then you add quest objects to the NPCs, and these quest objects are there until you complete the mission. So, for example, this one has a simple quest about going to somewhere and talk to someone. So I'm going to accept it. The quest icon changes over the NPC. This is everything controlled by the actual quest. Then I go to the place. Of course, these are not Elven Ruins, but the idea is to prototype fast, so it needs to be close. And then I have to talk with this guy. So I talk with this guy, and this guy asks me for some stones for his building project. So I'm going to accept it. And right now in the quest log, I have two missions. I have Humble Beginnings, which was the previous mission. So I can select it, and the quest objectives change on the top right corner, or I can return to the previous quest. So I'm going to finish this one first, collect a few rocks, yeah, I had a few rocks previously on my inventory, so it marks it as completed. I'm going to give the rocks to this guy. Here you have it. And the stones are removed. This use the same icon or something similar, but it's gold, it's not a stone. Now I have this NPC which has something different. It has a dialogue system, and it's something I'm still polishing because I wanted to use it on everything, and it needs to be very easily set up. So I'm ironing the kings, fixing the box, and yeah, when I have it finally finished, I'm going to use it on everything, on all the quests, all the NPCs. So you are not going to see the quest windows, which is a very old way of adding quest. Maybe I'll use those quest windows for something like quest attached to items or animals, things that do not talk. But for humans, I'm going to use something more organic, like dialogues. And this is a dialogue. So the design is not final. This is the design I'm currently working on. And I can talk with the NPC. Very simple dialogue. The idea is to test that the links work and the links to the quest work. So I'm going to ask for the quest. The quest is pick up some flowers. I'm going to accept it. And the dialogue ends and the camera zooms out to the previous state. So I'm going to pick up the items. As you can see, the items, when I pick them up, when the quest is selected, they change. If I change to the previous quest, they are not light with the particle effect. But if I select it, then they are displayed again. And they also change the text, the interaction text. So instead of the name, it also displays the verb. And it adds a nice outline. So it's improved feedback about, okay, this item is important, just pick it up. So I'm going to pick them up and it's completed. And I'm going to give the flowers and she's going to help me. And that's how it's done. The dialogue is complete. If I talk again, the quest is not going to appear. And I'm going to complete the last quest. All right, so I deliver the quest. And I have no more quests on the log and on the map. So basically, this is everything I have set up on this prototyping map. I have this platforming section, very simple, with a change of camera. And that's it. That's the prototype I'm working on. I have a save and load system. It's working. And yeah, that's the game. I'm going to show you a bit of how it's structured in the project. I'm going to exit the game. And yes, this is the actual project. As you can see, I have the pushable items. I can add transforms to each side so I can push in different directions. In the camera triggers, I can change the rotation to something more appropriate. I can decide if I want to restore the camera to the previous state or not. Yeah, every element here is added so I can use them as easily as possible in following projects. For example, here in the NPC, the quest icon is here. If I select it, I can add the objectives and whatever I need. Right now, I only have 4 quest types, which is location, legend location, collection, collecting items, kill, which is killing enemies, and interaction, which is just talking to someone or touching something. And the idea is that with these 4, you can combine them and make something interesting. But I probably will add a few types, especially if I want to simplify some systems. As you can, in the project, I'm using I'm using interfaces for everything. I don't use cast, especially to the main character, which, as you can see, is quite complex and has a lot of functions and variables. Everything here, it's variable. And of course, this is a very heavy class. So the idea was to use the character as a communication hub. So the character, when you are playing, is alive. It's there. It's not going to be destroyed. So you can use as a hub of communication for the different items. So maybe if an item needs something from the character, I can ask directly to the player character instead of the player class. And vice versa, I can send information from items. For example, the containers. If the containers are open or closed, I can send that state to the player, and the player knows directly, and so he can start the opening process. So things like that. The idea is to at least work on the optimization before the late optimization process, so the project is as light as possible. I have still work to do on that optimization side with the UI, with the HUDs. I'm using too many canvas, typical mistake. But yeah, the idea is to have everything clean up, everything commented. I have a huge function library for a lot of utilities. Since I use only interfaces for communications, these functions are going to work from the beginning if I add them to another project. So this is useful. And yeah, that's everything I wanted to show. Still a lot of work to do. It's quite incredible what, of course, I'm a designer and I have worked on different systems over the years, but it's like a black hole of things that you need to do when you start working on them. So, for example, if you add an inventory system, like for example, here I have this inventory component. You need to think about, okay, what is going to happen if I change the control system? What is going to happen if I use the item, or if I use it on the inventory, or if I try to use it on the container? Do I need to change the text? Do I need to do something else? What do I do when I destroy the object? So this is more complex that I thought. Of course, this is what programmers do. I never considered myself a programmer. I think I start to understand a bit of it, but of course, this is Blueprints. This is no C++. I'm not going to enter into that hellhole for the moment, but I might need to in the future. So for now, I'm quite happily working with Blueprints. And yeah, well, let's see where this project goes. I think I will start building up a few levels, because right now I have most of the tools needed for gameplay, for a simple game with puzzles and interactions. If I need enemies or something like that, then I have to implement more work. Like now, I only have a chase AI set on this character, and it's not very complex. But maybe I don't need anything else for this project. I need to know to decide also the kind of art I want to use. Like now, I'm using Cinti assets, which I like. It's something simple and it explains very well what I'm looking at. And maybe I'll use them, or maybe I use something more complex. But of course, I'm not an artist, and I need to take that into account. I need to keep it simple, and yeah, I want to make this fast enough so I can release at least a demo or a very small game in Itch.io or something like that, to see if what people think about the game. But for now, that is all. Thank you for your time, and see you soon. Bye.